Let's talk about another one involving me buying stuff and how and why and what I look for when I go buying stuff. When I go and looking for anything to do with appliances or stuff like that, I knock all the salesmen straight on their ass with the question of how many watts does it take? You can tell the whole world is sort of, well, you know, at least around where I am, it's on grid. You ask a salesman what wattage something takes, you'll be just about stuffed if they'll know. And, you know, they may see you picking things up and you'll be looking at the little plaque, the little sticker on the bottom that tells you what the wattage is and the amps and all that business. And they'll be sitting there going, what the hell is this bloke doing? You can see it on their face. And, oh, you know, you say, oh, yeah, I'm looking for one here. What's the lowest wattage you got? And the next thing you got them blooming leaning down behind freezers trying to have a glance in what it says. Oh, yeah, I think it says, yeah. It's quite funny. Another one that really flattens them straight on their ass. We got, there's different refrigerant gases. There's R134, R134A, which is quite common. Another one that's getting more common is R410A. You see that in some of the air conditioners, which are the better air conditioners. But we got one over here that you don't have in the United States, but they do have in Europe, and it's called R600A. Now, R always stands for refrigerant gas in these cases that I'm talking about here. But, you know, you'll see it on air conditioners of cars, fridges, and freezers. And my little solar fridge, that's R134A, which is a very common one. It's used in a lot of air conditioning systems in cars and stuff like that as well. But we've got one called R600A. It's isobutane, which is flammable. It's a relative of cigarette lighter gas, basically. And as a result of that, it's been banned in the United States. Now, if they were serious and they stopped all their politics and they're serious about green stuff, my gosh, you would have it in no time. I'm not joking when I say fridges and freezers and stuff like that. They take 1/5 the power with R600A than they do with R134A. You know, it's really good. So I go in there and I say, oh, you got any freezers or fridges that run R600A? What's that? That's a refrigerant gas. They got no idea. And that knocks them flat on their ass. And sometimes, you know, they're thinking, oh, geez, we've got to get on the phone or we've got to get the manager. I said, well, how do you tell that? Is usually what they ask. And so I was on the plaque on the back. Oh, I never noticed. And then they start asking me, so why is this one so good? And I said, because it's so efficient. I said, you look at these ones and you compare it to one of the other ones. You look at the amperage, you look at the wattage difference. Look at it, you know. There's quite a remarkable difference. My parents have got one that's R134A, little chest freezer. It takes 192 watts. I've got other ones that I'm coming across R600A. They're 85 watts. They've got a full-size fridge. It's not full-size American style, but it's a decent-sized fridge. No freezer compartment, but it's quite, you know, decent size one. Not super big, but, you know, it's certainly not bad. It's not a bar fridge, that's for sure. And that takes 65 watts. I mean, my gosh, like, you know, there's car fridges. The original Waco car fridge I had, that took more than that, you know. And this thing's a full-size fridge. So, yeah, but the other one is, a lot of people talk a lot of crap about this and they reckon they test them out and they never do it. That is buying products that are made in your own country. I seem to notice at times there are things, water cans are one of them. And I think it's due to the transport costs from China for something which is basically hollow, but it can't be broken down into a flat pack or broken down into smaller or stacked inside each other. The watering cans from China are actually slightly dearer than the ones made in Australia, so I grabbed the Australian-made one. If something is literally only $1 or $2 dearer and it's an Australian-made one and it's more or less no different from the Chinese-made one, I'll pay the extra $1 or $2 and get the Australian-made one. And there's so many people that say they'll do it and they never actually do. I do. Not all the time. But if they're a similar price I grab the Australian one. Keep me countrymen in a job. I had a few watering cans actually that are Australian made, even little miniature ones. And, you know, there's other things that you may come across where, you know, there's another Western country, and I'll go for the Western countries one instead of China's one, if I, you know, if it's not too much difference in price. In actual fact, aside from possibly the electric chainsaw, I don't know where that's made, most of my chainsaws are American made. All my gasoline chainsaws, all of them are American made, except the one I gave my father. I tell you what, steel chainsaws, if it wasn't for the steel chainsaw I bought, I would have lost faith in gasoline chainsaws. It is absolutely unbelievably good quality, which brings me to the next subject. I have a mentality of, if I'm going to use something only a couple of times, once or twice, not very often, I usually end up buying the cheapo Chinese one, the rubbishy one, because it doesn't need to be good, and I can just use the machine lightly, not flog the hell out of it, and, you know, it'll do the one or two jobs I need it to do. However, if I'm going to use something that requires a lot of abuse or a lot of use over a long period of time, and commonly, I'll get a good quality one, like the steel chainsaw. The cordless drill I have is DeWalt, which is also another American machine. I think they're made in America, Mexico and China. But, yeah, I buy, you know, I have bought a DeWalt drill, and they are flaming expensive. But they're good quality, you know, and that's something that I want to rely on and be able to use. I have on occasion bought things that I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of, and buy good quality ones, like the big hedge trimmer I got, and then only ever use it once. Same with the heat gun I've got. But, you know, I think if it's something that you're going to make a lot of use of, buy good quality. If it's something you're only going to use once or twice, buy low quality. And I always recommend buying off a Western country before buying off China. There's been quite a few times I've bought New Zealand made stuff. The plastic buckets I buy are New Zealand made, and they're no difference in price from the Chinese ones, so just buy the New Zealand ones. In actual fact, I think they're actually cheaper. So, you know, I go and buy New Zealand made, help the neighbours out. You know, the Chinese have got that much of people's business now that, when possible, I think, no, stuff it. I'll keep my countrymen going. And if not my countrymen, I'll keep someone else from another Western country going. You know, if it was an option to buy off Europe, I would as well. You know, but I sort of think that, you know, I actually know that statistics show that a lot of people say they'll buy stuff made in their own country, and almost every time they grab the Chinese one. And sometimes it's only to save a lousy $2 or $5, you know, and they're selling their country short over money that they would have otherwise spent in a blasted parking meter or something stupid like that, or on a blooming can of Coke or something, you know. And it's just stupid to sell your country down the drain over literally a couple of dollars, literally, you know. So, yeah, I do buy Australian, and if not Western world, when it is a similar price to Chinese stuff.